Bro, it's good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
It's like old times.
I know, dude.
It's like old times, I'm telling you.
Old times.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So tonight, what I want to do for the breakout session, now, I was hoping to be able to, up front, I was hoping to be able to control the slides. I can't control the slides, so I'm going to rely on my memory for a lot of this. So just so you know at the outset, my memory is already fleeting and failing, so we may be in for some interesting, awkward, like looking back and looking here, but I'll try my best to remember the order of the slides and whatnot. And I also, I was planning to, I have it all planned out, but I was also kind of hoping to, do some off-the-cuff stuff, and that's always dangerous. Lacey's already nervous, I can tell. But we'll see how it goes. I do want it to be very casual, all right? So I told Caleb last night, I got all my preaching out. I'm done preaching. I want this to be laid back. I want it to be casual. If you guys have questions, feel free to stop and ask. And just so you know, I know how the question and answer sessions always go, right? There, especially for the first 10 minutes, it's really awkward and weird. So I'm going to give you guys a heads up, all right? If you have any questions that you want to ask, tomorrow I plan to do kind of like a half and half, right? So a half session where we do maybe probably some more photos, a little bit more discussion about maybe some future plans, some current plans, all that kind of stuff. Within the second half, I'm going to open it up for questions. I answer some questions that I've already gotten to kind of get the session going, and then I'll open it up for more questions. So if you have some that you want to ask tomorrow, you're welcome to maybe write those down, bring them back tomorrow, whatever you want to do. Like I said, I want it to be a little bit more intimate, a little bit more, again, family time where we just kind of talk about what's been going on, what we have planned, and we'll talk about all different sorts of stuff. And I want to do the majority of that through pictures. All right. So what I broke it down in two kind of separate categories. All right. So we have life in Belfast, which we're going to discuss tonight. That'll be the main part of tonight's breakout session. What does life in Belfast look like? Because believe it or not, it does look quite a bit different than life in Lambertville, Michigan. And so I'll show you guys some pictures of what that looks like. We'll show you some of the things that we've seen, some of our everyday life. I'll explain some of the differences. I mentioned when I got on for the first time, I did the Lord's Supper. I was there for about a week or whatever. I mentioned one of the things that we were expecting, or were not expecting, that kind of took us by surprise, but was a lot of the little things in life that really added up to making life just that much more difficult. And so I'll talk about some of those things, show you some of those things, hopefully in some of these pictures, and we'll discuss some of that. So that's kind of how it's going to go this evening, life in Belfast. And then the next part, the second part of our breakout sessions will be ministry in Belfast. What has our ministry, again, what's it look like? What have we been doing over there? All right, we actually have some statistics on what we've been able to do. We have some numbers, and we also have some people you guys can pray for and things like that. And we'll show you some of that probably tonight, and obviously quite a bit more tomorrow. All right, so I wanted to start by, again, I used the Bible verse last night, a Bible passage, Mark chapter 4, sowing in a hard field, to kind of explain the spiritual experience of Belfast and what it's been like. And I wanted to tonight read a quote that I found that's really summed up our practical experience, right? So our day-to-day life, so to speak. And if you are going to be a missionary, right? So everybody in here should be a missionary, but especially if you're going to a foreign field, I want you guys to pay very close attention to this quote I'm about to read, because if I would have put this into practice and understood this fully, and I will say this, I'll talk more about this in a second too, but Brett warned me about this, all right? And I'll come back to Brett. He's going to get his kudos tonight, don't worry. But I want to read this quote I found, all right? Planning is important, okay? Planning is important. However, the most important part of every plan is to plan on the plan, not going according to plan. All right, so let me read that again, because you need to understand this to understand the past 6 months. Planning is important. However, the most important part of every plan is to plan on the plan, not going according to plan. All right, so those that are going to the Celtic Isles, write this down. Remember this, because there has never been a more true saying than what we've experienced as this saying right here. because right about, I don't know if everyone knows the full story, but right up until about a month and a half to 2 months, we were planning on going to Dublin. Everyone knows that part. But it wasn't until, April, maybe later part of March, that we decided to switch gears and go to Belfast. Now, again, kudos are, I got to give props out. And if I can say one other thing to the missionaries in here, all right? One other really, really practical thing and I'll just say this isn't just for the missionaries, this is for everybody. If you can save yourself a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of headache. I promise you. I don't care if it's dating advice. I don't care if it's, weird advice. If Brett tells you to do something, you should at least consider it. Heavily, heavily consider it, okay?
The Holy Ghost just hit this meeting.
Yes. All right?
This is the Holy Ghost conference that's right now.
If he tells you, Eric, you are going to want to look into going to Belfast. And this was what, a year before? Like, we literally left Dublin. He's like, you could probably it was uncanny. It was Holy Ghost-like, maybe. I don't know. Okay. It was weird. He tells me you're going to want to consider Belfast. And I go, okay, I'll consider it. And I never considered it. Like, I'm sorry, dude, but I never considered it. And then the reality struck of Dublin's not going to let you in, basically, is what we found out. And the dude was right. It's just like every other time in my life, if he said to do it, normally, especially if I didn't consider it, it wound up, actually, I probably should have just done it in the first place. It would have saved me, what I'm getting at, it would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of headache, a lot of effort, because it was like when we got to Belfast, we had no idea about anything. Really, honestly, we didn't. We didn't know much about the culture at all. We didn't know much about the lifestyle. We didn't know much how the visa system worked, which is a big story, and we'll talk more about that. I didn't know anything. Honestly, guys, that's a really, really weird, scary place to be in, because we had a plan, and that plan got crumpled up. And then we made a new plan, and then we made some more plans, and then we made some more plans. And finally, about May, we put together a final plan of going to Belfast and starting some things, right? So we had some expectations. All right, we had some expectations, and we wanted to do some things. We wanted to find out how we were going to live there, right? How are we going to stay long term was one of our number one goals. Whether that was a job, whether that was starting a business, whether that was volunteering, student, we didn't know anything. So we thought we'll get there and we'll meet face to face with people, and we'll start figuring out the process, all right? More to come on that whole entire situation. But that was expectation number one. And then expectation number two was learning the lifestyle, learning the culture, European, Belfast, Irish, Northern Irish, United Kingdom, because it's weird how it all works. It is Irish. It's on the island of Ireland, but it is also part of the United Kingdom, which, again, super weird, but we can talk more about that as well. And so we were kind of trying to figure out how to meld all that together and understand it the best way we knew how within these 6 months. And then finally, obviously, our third main expectation and our third main goal was getting to know people, starting phalanx, right? So the first 10 days we were in quarantine, but then after that, we knew we had to get moving, to start meeting people. We'd been craving this moment for the past 2 years almost of actually being on the field, and so we were wanting to start right away, all right? And I also want to say this before we actually get into the pictures. Do not ever let anyone tell you that the Christian life is a boring life. People that tell you that have never done anything in the Christian life, okay? Young people especially, that is a lie of all lives. A lie of all lies, excuse me. If and only if you are willing to do certain things for Christ. Because if you do anything for him, I can promise you this. I can promise you some excitement. Now, that excitement isn't always the best kind of excitement, but there are really, really exciting and cool moments along the way. And we have lived an exciting life in various forms over the past 6 months, all right? And hopefully I can show you guys kind of a little bit about what that looks like. All right. Lacey gave me her journal today. She journaled and was writing her prayers, prayer journal down and stuff. And she said, "Hey, you should check this out." And so I started flipping back all the way. She started this right before we left. Well, actually, not right before, but at the beginning of the year. She wrote down some of her fears, some of her excitements, some of her prayers. And it was amazing to see what God has done in her life over the course of the last 6 months to almost, 11 months at this point. Almost a complete 180. You want to talk about supernatural power, supernatural work. I'm going to talk a lot about God working through Lacey and ministering through her tonight as well. So, all right, I want to quickly just give you guys a little bit about Belfast, okay? So, a quick bird's eye view. Again, I know most people were expecting Dublin. We were expecting Dublin. We changed. Probably haven't heard a ton. Maybe you have about Belfast, especially over the course of the time that we've been there. So just quickly, I want to give you just some really bird's eye view statistics of the city, okay? The population, the metropolitan area has about 675,000 people, all right? So the city center expanding out quite a ways, has about 675,000 people as of 2019, all right? So in all of Northern Ireland, there is 1.9 million people, okay? Of that population, and this is where, again, most people start to recognize Belfast when I mention 49% of that populace identify as Protestant and 45% as Catholic, all right? And then the others, there's another 5% that don't identify as anything, believing anything, and then 0.1% or something minute is other religions. It's settled on the River Lagan, all right? So, and you have Dublin set on the Liffey. You have a lot of major cities in Europe are set or split, even as we know Budapest is split by rivers. It's the same thing for Belfast. It's kind of split. The river runs literally right through where we live, and it's kind of cool. You'll see some of those pictures tonight. It's known for a variety of things. At the top of that list, the Titanic was built in Belfast. It was built there. Didn't last very long, as everyone knows, but the Samson and Goliath cranes are still there. They're beautiful. They're cool. You can pretty much see them almost anywhere that you are on top of a hill, which is absolutely amazing how Belfast is set up. And some of the hills that you ride your bike up, you can look down the way and you can see the cranes. The shipyard is still in action. It's still making ships. It's pretty cool. And we went to the museum. We've seen the Titanic Museum. Maybe when you guys come, we'll take you there. It's pretty cool. And so it's known for the Titanic. It's known for Queen's University, which is about a 15-minute walk from our house. The Giant's Causeway is known for its extremely beautiful coastal views. And unfortunately, most of all, Belfast is known for a period of time known as the Troubles, right? So I asked for questions. Let me tell you something. If you ask about the Troubles, I'll try to answer as best I know how. But I'm not well versed at all in the Troubles. I'm getting there. I'm improving on my knowledge of what in the world went on during the 1960s through the middle of the 1990s. But there's a lot to the Troubles, and we've done as much homework as we could. I'm hoping to, once we get everything settled, to actually dive into a lot more of that study, because it is an amazing, weird, crazy period of history, and so it's known for that time. All right, it has one of the most famous hotels in the world, the Europa Hotel. You want to know why the Europa Hotel is so famous? It's known as one of the most bombed buildings in the world. About 36 bomb attacks known to have happened from 1970 to middle of the 1980s. It's unfortunately during that time was one. Now during that time, a lot has changed since then, but during that time it was one of the most dangerous cities. All right. In all, over 1,600 people were killed in the political violence between 1969 and 2001. And unfortunately, again, even to this day, it's known for its extreme sectarian violence and unrest. However, like I said, you'll see things have changed, all right? I know it's known for the Troubles, but I promise you it is a beautiful city, and it's very, very interesting how things have changed and how it has grown, and I want to show you some of that. It is part of the United Kingdom. It has its own parliament structure, which you'll see. And the best way that I know how to explain this, again, very, very bird's eye view, is it kind of operates as a state. All right? It's the best way that I know how to reckon it in my mind, at least right now. Okay? So if the United Kingdom, or if England put something into law, for instance, COVID restrictions were eased in England, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the same exact way in Northern Ireland or even Scotland, the entire United Kingdom. Normally they operate kind of like a state and federal government system. And so that's, again, there's a lot more to that. You'll see the parliament in pictures here. It's actually quite a beautiful place. We've been there. It has a great lunch. I'd love to take you to the lunch there. It's really good. But that's kind of how the government system operates. And so there are 4 counties, and I want to teach you the 4 counties. 6 counties. There are 6 counties. I want to teach you the 6 counties of Northern Ireland. And you can remember the 6 counties by remembering the acronym FAT-LAD. All right? FAT-LAD. I have these memorized, but just so I don't mess it up, I'm going to read them to you. Okay? You have Fermanagh. You have Antrim, which is where Belfast is. That's our county. You have Tyrone. You have Londonderry, or Derry or Free Derry, depending on what part of the country you're in is what you can call that. You have Armagh, and then you have Down. All right? So you have the 6 counties, remember FAT-LAD, and that is your quick overview, bird's eye view of Belfast. Now, I wrapped up Belfast in about 5 minutes. Come over or ask questions, and you'll get maybe a little bit of a deeper knowledge of that. All right? I would like to now kind of start the slides, and Tom and I will kind of do the best we can here to kind of work this out. But you can start going through the slide, or Gabriel, we'll kind of work together here. So we have the Hello Belfast. This is one of the cool signs that we ran into. If you kind of start flipping through, I start at the very beginning, all right? So I start at the very beginning here. Yeah, you should just be able to click the right button. Yep, so this is us. Again, this is Eric 6 months ago, Lacey 6 months ago. We had no idea what we didn't know. The plan was about to, again, be changed, and we were ready for that. We were cool with that. If you continue flipping through over the next slides, I wanted to make sure I got this in there. We wanted to say thank you for this. This was awesome. If you go to the next slide, this was my favorite one. Brad here. Yeah, so listen to everything this guy tells you to do and do it, and you're going to be gold, guys, all right? If you keep flipping through here. This is Jack. Like I said, I warned you guys yesterday. This is kind of Belfast through Jack's eyes. You get a lot of Jack because you don't want a lot of me, and Lacey was taking the pictures most of the time. Unfortunately, I'm terrible at taking pictures. So we got, at least he's really cute, all right? So this is Jack at the airport. This is his first trip. You can keep going through the slides here. Jack made sure he read the safety card. He knows more about, the air systems and whatnot than I do. This is George Best. This is the airport that you will more than likely fly into. This is where the Blackbirds and the Beckers came into. George Best is one of their superstars. He is a proper football. We'll talk more about that. He's a proper footballer, played for Manchester United about 1968 for a while. When he died, the city shut down for 5 days. They mourned his death. Anyway, this is the airport, and this is what we saw when we came out. If you flip to the next one, all right? Welcome to Belfast, the Crack's 90, all right? Now, we're going to get into some of the phrases here in just a minute. But when they say that, what's the crack, all right? You're going to hear it. I promise you, if you come to Belfast, you're going to hear a couple things. Well, you'll hear a lot of things, and a lot of them aren't good things, trust me. But you'll hear, what's the crack? And you'll hear we, all right? So let me just explain we for a second. We is a term used for literally anything. Look at that wee giant over there. How about a wee cup of coffee? How about a wee cheeky cup of coffee? How about a wee cheeky, gin with the tea and the coffee? I mean, it's like you hear it all. But we is a term that's used to describe anything, okay? And you, can I help you with your wee bags? Can I get you a wee taxi? Would you like a wee scone? And it's not scone, it's scone, by the way. And I'll show you the best scones in the world in just a minute, all right? These are all, again, we got out of the airport, or we got off the flight, and this is what we see, okay? Then, if you go to the next one, The next slide. This was the next thing we're greeted by. Kind of a weird, like I don't know, forthtelling. There's exit. There's no return. Funny story. I had about 6 gigantic bags packed on a little trolley. I got jammed in that little thing right there, and the guys had to like pry me out. It was the most embarrassing. Well, not the most. I'll show you a picture of the most embarrassing time of my life. But this was our arrival. Okay, if you keep going here, Gabriel. Okay, so this is Ormeau Road. All right, I actually have this as the screensaver, the background on my computer, so that when I open it up, this is what I see, because we see the Ormeau Road as being really the center of our ministry in Belfast. This is where we live. This is where we foresee ourselves living for quite a while. It's where we see our first church being established. It's where we see our other opportunities that I'll talk about later being established. And this is the Ormeau Road. Literally, this is the sign almost right outside, right? You walk out our door, and then right to the left, you can see this sign. If you keep going, this is our first house. The next picture will show you a little bit more about it. If you flip on to the next, flip to the next one. This is out front of our first place. All right, so we had this spot for 3 months. That's all we knew. When it comes to the housing, we had 3 months here, and after that, we had no idea where we were going to live, where we were going to be, but we had the Airbnb, and we actually made a really good contact with the guy that rented this to us. His name's Steven. I've talked to him quite a bit, even after we left. And so this is where we stayed. You'll see out front the recycling bins, all right? These are bins. These are not trash cans, by the way. If you call them trash cans, they'll make fun of you, like they made fun of me. But these are the bins, and you'll see you have your sorting bins. And if you don't sort the rubbish the right way, you'll get it sent back for like 4 more weeks for everything to continue to rot. So we learned quickly, you sort your rubbish, and you do it the right way, okay? It's a concept that I was unfamiliar with and continue to be unfamiliar with, but I sort my rubbish now. And if you keep going, I'm just going to this was the view from our first house, all right? So if you look out, if you see down to the left, down that little street, that is where the Ormeau Road like really starts to kick in. I could walk to the Ormeau Road in 30 seconds, and you can look to your left and to your right, and you can see just about anything you could need. Cafes, there's a hotel, there's restaurants, of course there's pubs, there's post offices, and that's the view from our first place. So keep going. This is wee Jack getting into the wee fridge, all right? So this is our fridge. It's a mini fridge, but it's our fridge, all right? We had to like put this under lock and key because Jack was constantly trying to get the milk out, all right? So if you go to the next one, this is wee Jack and the wee washer, all right? He was everywhere. And this is the washing machine. It's in the kitchen, by the way. There's no washrooms. It's right there next to the fridge. All right, so if you go to the next slide, there's also now I say this. There's rarely dryers. In our new place, we got a dryer. All right, because this is normally how everyone hangs their laundry. All right, this is Jack's clothes hanging out to dry, and that was weird. That was a little thing that we weren't expecting. That was kind of annoying, but what are you gonna do? You got to hang the clothes. Guess we're going back home. No, okay, so it's just one of those little things that we had to learn how to deal with. All right, so next thing. This was near the end of quarantine, and this is how we felt. All right, Jack really is representing day like 9.5, maybe even day 1.5. All right, if you go to the next one, this is him begging to get out of the house. All right, so if you go to the next slide here, this is our first trip out. All right, this is Jack and his umbrella pram. All right, another term for you. This isn't a stroller, this is a pram. We got a proper pram that you'll see in a minute. But this is Jack, first trip out. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This is we had to go down to McDonald's and get they didn't have sweet tea, but we got tea just for Mrs. B and for Joanne, because if you know, like, it's kind of an inside joke, but if you know anything about Joanne and Mrs. B, love them to death, but they cannot get off of the large sweet teas at McDonald's. So, little shout out to Mrs. B from Belfast. All right, so if you click to the next one, this is our first trip out. All right, so this is the bus stop. We're going to continue to talk about travel in Belfast. There's Mrs. B. You got your shout out, Mrs. B. There she is. Sweet tea, McDonald's. I showed the picture. It was unsweet. I know. That's like blasphemous, right? Unsweet tea. I know. I'm sorry. All right. So this is our first trip out. This is our proper pram, by the way. All right. This did make our life easy. This was a transportation device, a carrying device. You could probably float on it. You could do anything you want on this thing. It's it was a lifesaver in a lot of ways, and you'll see more of that. If you continue to go through just the next few slides, you'll see this is our bus tickets that we got. Keep going here. This is Lacey's first trip alone on the bus, all right? And she got used to this really quick, but continue. Okay, all right, well, I got to stop here. Okay, this is our first time out. This is at the park, okay? And you'll see a lot more of these pictures, but I got to talk about these scones. And by the way, it's not scones, it's scones, okay? You're going to hear of a place, especially when you come and you visit us, called B&B is what we call it. Bread and Banjo. Has the best scones in the world. We literally had no idea. We ventured out, we stopped at this place, and this was our first real proper meal out. And we went down to the park, and we sat down, and we let Jack play as best he could. We kind of ignored him for about 5 minutes, let him do his thing, and we had not the best coffee in the world, but the best scones in the world, okay? So if you go flip to the next one, this is Mrs. Jack and I wandering around. So what I'm going to show you now is kind of, all right, so those were our first couple weeks. Now we're going to venture out into our neighborhood. Now, mind you, what you're about to see is about anywhere from a 5 to 15 to 20 minute walk. All right? I've always wanted to do this, by the way. I got to take a time out. Hey, Jake, will you grab me a water? Oh, man, that was great. Oh, yeah. All right. Sorry. I'm sorry, dude. I already feel bad. All right. I am really parched, just so you know. All right, so I'm going to have continued. He is glaring at me. I love it. All right. I'm going to just continue. You can roll through the next probably 5 to 10 slides, all right? This is us shopping, okay? So you have to remember, we don't have a car for the first probably 4 to 5 months, all right? And we have to have groceries, obviously. And Lacey, she's a trooper, by the way. Unbelievable. I went shopping, but rarely did I go shopping. Lacey did the majority of all of this by herself. Okay, so stop here for a second. You see what I mean by a proper pram becoming really important, because this is how we got groceries home. And this, those bags aren't light, by the way. And by the way, you also had to lift this up and get this onto the bus, because the bus drivers park this far away from the sidewalk, okay? So you got to lift this up. You got to get onto the bus. You got to scan your ticket. By the way, you got to wear a mask, all this kind of stuff, okay? So you can keep going through here. This is us on the train, okay? So this is us venturing out, really, again, for the first few times. This is the train. This isn't the bus. This is Jack saying, hey, he's number one. And then the next slide is maybe my most embarrassing moment of all time. So see, Jake, you got to see my embarrassing moment at least. There you go. Thank you. I really appreciate that, man. This is me, all right? Just want to point out a couple things, okay? This is me in the toilet. By the way, it's not a bathroom. It's not a restroom. It's a toilet, okay? I'm in the toilet on the train. Marisa, you're not allowed to take a picture of this, all right? And yes, I'm wearing a bum bag. Exactly. It's not a fanny pack over there, okay? It's not a fanny pack. Do not say fanny pack. Just trust me on this. Don't Google it. Don't look it up. Just trust me on this, okay? And yes, I'm wearing a bum bag. Yes, I'm still a man. Yes, I'm proud of my manhood too, okay? But this was a lifesaver. Not being stuck in the toilet. But the bum bag, by the way, was a lifesaver, okay? I'm getting some nods out there, because I had to carry around everything I needed. I was normally on my bike, or I was on the bus, or I was walking, okay? This was an annoyance. I'm not gonna lie. It took me a while to get over this annoyance of carrying a bum bag, first of all, and then riding your bike everywhere, or cycling everywhere, or if poor Lacey having to push the pram. You got used to it. Don't get me wrong. Honestly, you're gonna say you're talking out both sides of your mouth. I'm not complaining. I'm not, because it was fun to kind of get in European shape a little bit. It's fun to be able to walk 15 minutes down the road, and you're gonna see what it looks like. But there were some annoyances, especially at first. And I did get stuck in the toilet on the train. Okay, for about 15. And Lacey didn't care. Not only did she not care, she thought it was hysterical. All right, so this is us. This is me trying to venture out. I think I look pretty good in this picture, but, anyway, I heard that too. All right, you can keep going to the next slide, all right? So keep going through here. This is Jack. This is not one of his first trips, but this is him venturing out. This is his first bus ride without a pram. Okay, so this is Jack. He thinks he's Big Cheese at the bus stop, okay? All right, so this is Ormo Park, okay? So you can go through the next 5 to 10 here. This is a hub for us, especially for Lacey, okay? I'm going to sound like we're really cool, and I don't mean to sound this way, but Lacey can literally not go to this park right here and not be recognized, which I think is really cool, especially for Lacey, right? It wasn't always like this for her to be able to get to a point where, like, she knows so many people, so many mums. It's not moms, it's mums, by the way, okay? She knows so many mums that she can't walk through Ormo Park without being recognized by somebody. And I've seen this firsthand. It wasn't always like this, but she worked, she got in her field, she got up every day, she sowed seeds, and it was cool to see that happen, all right? All right, so this is our neighborhood. You saw Ormo Park. It's a hub. It's a really cool spot. We'll take you there. When you come, you'll get to see it. You'll get to watch Jack play. Jack attracts attention. We talked about this with the Vogels this afternoon. Like, kids are really important in ministry, and we'll talk about this a little bit more probably tomorrow. But this is at the end near Queen's University. All right, so keep going here, Gabriel. You'll see this is a 10-minute walk for us. This is Queens. And the pictures do not do any of these justice, by the way. You can ask Molly. She was there. You can ask the Blackfords and Beckers. They've seen this. They've seen a lot of what I'm going to show you. It doesn't do it justice. We have some really cool plans for the future for Queen's University that we have actually already been preparing for while we're here, okay? So we know of a lot of ministries that we've done at Toledo University. I hope to take some of these to Queen's in the near future. Maybe we'll be recruiting some of you college people to come over and help out with that. We'll see what that looks like. But some really cool things, hopefully in the future, at Queen's, one of the premier universities in the United Kingdom. All right? I actually had a job offer from Queen's. Long story short, they had to take it back. Anyway, I'll tell you about that later, okay? Again, 10-minute walk from our house. You can keep scrolling. This is getting into the city center. All right? So this is getting into the city center. That's a double up. Sorry about that. You can keep going. There we go. So this is Victoria Square, getting into the mall area of what we would know. You can do some shopping here. There's buskers down here. There's a really good busker named John Garrity, by the way. He's in Belfast City Center quite a bit. Really good voice. Pretty well-known, popular musician. You can keep scrolling here. This is City Hall. You'll see some of the pictures of City Hall. This is what it looks like. Again, pictures don't do it justice. There's picnic areas. There are places to sit and see different things. So keep going through these. You can scroll pretty quickly through the next few. This is down, again, near the shopping area. You can get pizza at the Scottish Provident Institution, by the way, so that's pretty cool. All right, City Center again, the City Hall. Keep going through these. All right, so this is the picture of the most bombed building in the world. This is the Europa. Bill Clinton famously stayed here when the Easter Agreement in 1998 went into effect. This is a church. Guys, check this out. This is a church, 5-minute walk from our place. You see places like this all over. They're empty. Not just a Baptist church. By the way, we went to a Baptist church. If I'm lying, I'm dying. 8 people. And there wasn't a person younger than 74 years old. So there are churches everywhere. Emily's testimony when she came back, Holy Toledo, right? Holy Belfast. But they're empty. Not just the Baptist churches. This place is empty. The Catholic churches are empty. They're huge. They're beautiful. Don't get me wrong. What's going on? We'll talk about this, all right? We'll talk about this more. You can keep going. All right, this is you see the doors of Dublin? These are some of the doors of Belfast, all right? This was literally a street down from us. We actually looked at one of those apartments for let there. God blessed us by not letting us get it. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you can keep scrolling. This is our neighborhood, all right? You're going to see everything that you see in these pictures, but a lot up close in person, and a lot cooler. All right, you can keep scrolling here. This is a typical street, all right? You'll see, okay, so this is a beautiful view. Again, this is the Lisburn Road. It sits on a hill. If you look down your left down the Lisburn Road, you can see some of the hills of Antrim, all right? Some of the glens of Antrim that are sung about, all right? These are some of those. This is the H&W. I don't know if that's Samson or Goliath. It's one of the most popular things in Belfast. Everybody recognizes these. You also get some of the murals there as well. You can keep scrolling. This is the Lagan River. All right, 10-minute walk from our house. It's beautiful. You see rowers, crew teams going down this all the time. It runs right down through the city. Okay, now I'm going to stop here, talk about, this is our new pad. We talked about the supernatural last night. Now, there was a lot of supernatural things that went on. There was a lot of God moving, and this was one of them, all right? We were about 6 to 7 days from being homeless, all right? So I mentioned to you, we had the Airbnb. Now I know what this is like. Okay, homeless, ha, really? This is like a missionary guy. He's just exaggerating for effect. Okay, all right, I'll tell you what. We'll switch. We'll switch positions. We'll go back in time, reverse and go back. And you can be the one over there with a wife and a son in a place that you've been in for not quite 90 days. With literally 6 to 7 days to find a new home. And you've applied at probably 20 different locations, and barely do you get an opportunity because the market over there is crazy. The rental market, you apply for a spot, and literally, if I'm lying, dying, you would apply, and then 2 hours later, the place would just be gone. No explanation, nothing. We were international, so that made it even harder. And I would say luckily, but we know not luckily. We know by God's grace, at almost the 11th hour, Lacey was walking down past this, and she saw a real estate sign. It was kind of like a last-ditch effort because we'd applied for every available other place, and we couldn't even get into the places to see. Saw a sign out front. She's like, what? What do we got to lose? Might as well try. We call the guy. He's a small real estate company. And he says, oh, yeah, this is no problem. We can get you in here in like a week. Mind you, getting into a house in a week is unheard of. You have no idea, especially as the leader of the household, the leader of the ministry team, finding a place to live is the weight that was off my shoulders. And again, we didn't do anything. We literally just walked by, it was God's grace. That's the only way. I can't explain it. I can't put it into words. Again, you had to be there. You had to experience it to know, the nervousness, right? The sheer, just absolute dedication to prayer just to find a space to live. And God provided this. Now, if you keep scrolling through, this was a monumental moment for us because not only this is the Ormeau Road. It was the perfect location to where we wanted to be. Mind you, we would have taken a roof anywhere. The places that we applied for, I don't know how we would have lived in them, but it would have been a roof is where we were at. This, if you scroll to go back, because that's a little ways down the road. But this is where we call home, and it has, mind you, this is unheard of. It has 4 bedrooms, has 5 bathrooms. 5 bathrooms. There's one in the garage. It's not a garage either. It's a garage, by the way. There's a back garden. It's not a yard. It's a garden. All right, you guys annoyed yet by all the weird phrases? I can tell some of you guys are really annoyed by garage. Jason's annoyed by garage. I can tell. We got a garage where I park the car because we get a car, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But this was a huge answer to prayer. This was God's providence, God's blessing on our life. All right, and so this is what you see as you look out our front window, the Ormeau Road, which you literally turn left. And there is a petrol station. You walk across the street, and there is a convenience store. Which is, by the way, very convenient because I'll talk to you about how I get heat maybe later. You would have thought, I mean, this is Belfast. You would have thought we would have figured out the heating and electric by now. What I have to go through to get heat and electric is out of this world. It's unbelievable. And I know Jeff and the Vogas are sitting there like, dude, you have no idea, right? They're probably the most annoyed right now. But to me, it was really annoying how I have to get heat and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to go to the next slide. What time am I done, by the way? 6:30? 6:30 good? Or do I need 6:20? 6:30? Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, so this is our neighborhood. This is a little bit about how we got to the Ormeau Road. You'll hear a lot more about the Ormeau Road coming up. We plan to do a ton of ministry stuff there. We'll talk more about that. But if you start scrolling through, now, Gabriel, if you just kind of click through a lot of these, this is the beauty of Ireland. All right, this is what I kind of termed these next probably 20 slides or so. And this is, guys, this is where we live. This is in our neighborhood, but I can be here within, guys, what's the time out? I can be there. I can see that in person in about 30 minutes. Guys, it's a hard field, yes. Don't get me wrong, hard hearts. But if you're having a bad day, at least it's pretty, right? I can be there. I can see that in 30 minutes. If you keep scrolling, we did a lot of, this is the rope bridge, very famous spot on the way to the Giant's Causeway, okay? We did a lot of these trips with the Blackfords, all right? So you'll see part of the Blackfords trip. We went to the Giant's Causeway. We did a lot with the Beckers and the Blackfords, but we took some really cool trips with them. I stole a lot of Molly's really cool pictures. Don't worry, I give you photo creds, all right? I stole a lot of Molly's really good pictures, and this is just some of the beauty of Ireland, okay? And I want to talk about, just really quickly, one of the things that I found myself doing, all right? So I mentioned I studied the life of Joshua. When I went into full-time ministry, one of the things that he does, he sets up memorials, right? They cross the Jordan, he sets up a memorial to kind of look back. The generations that came, they look back on these stones, and they were able to see God's provision, God's direction, God's guidance. And there was a time, and I'll explain more about this, but I wind up getting a job. This is how we're being sponsored to get there. Again, I'll talk about this in a minute, but what I do in this job is I clean toilets, all right? There's a lot more porcelain involved in this job than I was hoping or expecting. I do dishes, I clean tables, and I make coffee drinks, and I take them to people. And then I scrape their nasty, crummy dishes into the waste, and I do it all over again. And I'm not gonna lie, after about a week and a half to 2 weeks of doing that, I was kind of thinking okay, I paid a lot of money for a degree. I had a decent, okay, all of the thoughts start creeping back in, right? I go from a decent, pretty good job to cleaning toilets. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but people would ask me, what kind of job are you going to get? And I would say, I'll clean up poop if I have to get over there. You know what God said? All right, dude, prove it. Because I clean up a lot of poop at my job. I know that's kind of nasty and gross, but okay. And there I am, and I'm driving to work one day, and I remember this day. It's like a week and a half to 2 weeks in. I'm like, Satan's stamped out seed. I've gotten the chance to share the gospel by this point, but obviously the next meeting, the seed was stamped out. There wasn't much discussion about it later on, and I'm kind of discouraged. All right, and I'm driving to work. And I remember thinking these thoughts. And I work at a place called the Stormy Cup. And you'll see what this looks like at the end and probably a little bit tomorrow. But the Stormy Cup is a cafe located in Donegal, all right on the coast. And I look out the front window, and you can see Scotland from the front window of where I work. You can see the swimmers getting into the ocean for the cold plunge, that they do every morning. That's a thing over there, by the way. And I start to think as I'm waiting tables and I'm riding home, okay? And I'm driving home, and I'm looking, and I'm reminded of all these. This is Donegal, by the way. This is out my front window of where I work. And I start driving back home. And I start remembering some of the memorials that I had seen along the way to work that morning. Because I take the same route to work. I take the same route to football, proper football group that I'm in. And along the way, so I used to ride my bike about 30 minutes to play football every Thursday and Saturday, sometimes on Monday, and I'd see the same things. And so what I did, what I had to do, was I set up memorials of God's beauty along the way to remind me of my Creator. So you take a right outside of my driveway, you ride up the hill to Knocknaree Road. You turn left on Knocknaree Road, and you're left, but you're at the top of a hill, and you look down to your left, and you see Samson and Goliath. And in the background, you can see the Glens of Antrim. You drive a little bit further, you can see the same thing, but an even more incredible view of it. You get to the top of this hill, and I'm on my bike, and I'm sweating, and I'm all nasty. I'm out of breath. It's a pretty big hill, and you look down, and you see Stormont. Now, I haven't been watching the pictures, but you see Stormont, which is the Parliament, and it's lit up, right? And you can see the castle where the Prime Minister used to stay when he would come visit. And then, again, if you keep going through Ards and parts of Bangor, you look to your left, and you look to your right, and you see the sheep fields. And then you get to Donegal, the cafe by the sea, and you can look out and you can see Scotland. You can see God's creation. You can see God's wonder. And I had to. What I did was I set up memorials along the way where every time I pass by on Knocknaree Road, I look to my left and I see the view, and I stop and I pray. I go a little bit further. And trust me, traffic there, by the way, traffic is unreal. Ask Adam, ask Brandon. They've been there. And it can get you into a mindset. It can get you into this weird place where you're just ready to curse everything and what in the world? I'm headed to clean toilets. I could have been doing this. And then you pass Stormont, and you pray. Then you pass the sheep fields, and you pray. And then you get to the sea. And you get to Donegal, and you look to your left, and you see the ocean, and you see God's mighty power. And by the end of your trip, you've had a little praise service. Instead of what used to be a grumble session, instead of what used to be complaining, instead of what used to be, God, what are you doing? It wound up being a memorial service where I simply looked at God's creation, God's provision for our lives, and I thanked Him and I praised Him for it. And that's one of the ways that I stay sane in Ireland. Because there are times when, I'm telling you, I told you guys last night, the field's hard. It's tough. It's not always easy, and there is a lot of weird stuff that goes on in Belfast. Hey Mara, shout out. There we go. I saw you guys laughing. Grace, you got one coming. Don't worry, Grace. I'm just kidding. All right? And so I encourage you guys, okay, I know I said I wasn't going to preach, but I encourage you guys to set up memorials. This is what I do as I go to work, as I look out and as I see certain things. All right? And so again, as you see the beauty of Ireland, I encourage you guys to do this in your life. All right? Set up things as you travel to work. Set up things in your home, in your life, where it keeps you sane. All right? It keeps you praying. It keeps you praising. It keeps you worshiping and thinking about what God's done in your life. If you scroll through the rest of these, some more shout outs. Again, like I said, Jack is in a lot of these. All right, there we are. This is at the sea. All right, keep going here. And I want to end by kind of telling you guys about the visa situation. All right? So tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to pick up and we're going to talk about ministry. What has our ministry looked like? All right? But I want to stop and I want to talk about God's supernatural provision in acquiring a visa. Okay? So we got there and we thought, okay, we'll get here and we'll be able to figure this out right away. We'll be able to meet in person with people. We'll get answers. And the plan didn't go according to plan. For the entire month of July, by the way, pretty much everybody shuts down, okay? We got out of quarantine. We had June, the month of June, where, again, we were trying to get our bearings. We started calling some people. We started doing some things, but we really couldn't get a hold of people because little did we know, about halfway through June, they also shut down a lot of the places as well. Couldn't get a hold of a lot of people. Again, we tried a ton of different things. So basically what I found out was I need to be sponsored, okay? I need either a business, an organization, to sponsor an individual to come. This is Stormont, by the way. This is what I see at the top of the hill. This is their Parliament buildings, okay? So what you need is a sponsor, and it can't just be any company. I can't just go to the CrossFit gym and be like, hey, I'm a CrossFit coach, hire me. It has to be an approved, government-approved sponsor, all right? So I figure all that out. How am I going to find a government-approved sponsor? I have no contacts, no connections in anybody that is an approved sponsor already. We take a trip with the Blackfords. We go down the coastal route, and we stop for coffee after a beach day. By the way, we were there at the beach with the family that the Blackfords had met. We were ministering to. And we did a lot of things with them. You'll see some of the parties we did with them. Again, we were doing ministry, right? We were out with people. We were actually net fishing is what we were doing that day. And we stopped afterwards. We stopped at a little coffee place, okay? And the coffee place was open an hour later. I walk in. Hey, man, I'm really sorry, but I would love a cup of coffee. Are you able to make me a cup of coffee? Yeah, sure, come on in. The guy says, come on in. He's got a hat on, and the hat is a Boston Red Sox hat. All right? So I'm like, hey, I'm here to meet people. I'm here to fly fish. You like the Boston Red Sox, huh? Yeah, I lived in America for about 10 years. I taught finance at a really prestigious university in Boston. I've been a CFO and a CEO of different companies. I'm currently a CEO of this company online. I'm German, but I own this company now. Oh, man, that's crazy. Hey, what are you doing here? This guy asked me. Well, I'm here doing this. I'm here doing that. I would love to, actually, man, one of the things I would love to do is start my own coffee shop. That'd be sweet. Kind of exploring that opportunity. He goes, hey, do you want a job here? I said, dude, do you have no idea? Are you serious? Like, what's going on? He's like, no, I'd love to have you come work. I need help. I said, give me your contact information, and I'll get a hold of you. And I think he gave it to me and was like, yeah, right, this guy's ever going to call me back. Okay? I literally, I think the next day, I emailed him. He gives me his number. We set up a meeting, and I go and I talk to the guy. And he goes, yeah, I would love to be a sponsored company. I would love to, be able to provide visas for international people. I'm from Germany. I love the opportunity to do that. That was a typical, you can stop here, by the way. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is some of the Irish humor, by the way. All right, we'll talk more about this tomorrow and stuff. But the guy goes, yeah, sure. I would love to do this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you serious? He's like, yeah, just give me more details, whatever. We'll work it out. So I come back again. Brandon and I met with him the first time. I come back again later. Okay, this guy I randomly met has agreed to sponsor us to come and work for his coffee shop, along with also helping out strong possibility of helping out with future endeavors. Because one of the things that we actually want to do is and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but on the Ormeau Road, we have a spot that Adam has been, Brandon has been praying about for starting our own coffee shop. And this is not just a coffee shop, but we want to use it for our church. We're going to close it down on Sundays. We're going to open it up for the community. Free coffee, free donuts, free amazing cupcakes from the Beckers. Come in and we're just going to have a Bible study. And it's going to double as a coffee shop and a church. And this guy, again, not random, but crazy, supernatural. What are the chances? Seriously. but God, right? But God. And I got more stories to tell you tomorrow about ministry. Okay, so this was a little bit of our life. Okay, just a smidge, just a piece of life in Belfast. What we've seen, what we've experienced, and tomorrow I want to show you actually the really cool stuff, right? Because ministry has actually flourished. Meeting people has been amazing, and we're going to talk a lot more about what that has looked like. How have we done it? What have you found successful? What have you found unsuccessful? And I'm going to give away the secret, and you guys can chew on this tonight. But guess what we did? We did failings. And then we got up, and we did it again, and we did it again, and we did it again, and we did it again. And guess what? We're going to go back, and we're going to keep doing it. Because God's blueprint, it actually works.
So failing's working while you're working a job and while you're raising kids and while you're trying to figure out life. And that's being a missionary. And so what does it show you? I mean, during the time that Eric has been in Ireland, you've had the facilitation through the local New Testament church to be able to have this exact same missionary life here. If you contextualized yourself as much of a missionary to Lambertville as Eric and Lacey have contextualized themselves missionaries to Belfast, then you would have been doing the same thing with basically the same pressures and the same schedules and the same impediments. And that's why we're all missionaries. And that's why every one of us has been given the ministry of reconciliation. Oh, that we all considers ourselves missionaries the way that missionaries consider themselves missionaries. That's the difference between Philadelphia and Laodicea. That is it. That is the real difference. Praise the Lord. We'll take a little bit of extra time. We'll start the 5-minute countdown at 5 after. Okay, we'll start the 5-minute countdown at 5 after. Quick prayer, and we'll go grab a little bit of, I don't know if it's the same level as last night. Man, last night, I'm just here to tell you. I don't know who was involved in that cooking. I'm supposed to be on a diet, and I have been strict on this diet. But man, when I walked by that apple Christmas for your mouth wonder heaven, I had me some of that, and I mean, it was like being born again. That was amazing stuff, and so was the other Mexican. But give me some more of that apple. Yeah. Man. All right, let's pray. Father, we thank you for the food and fellowship that we're about to enjoy. We thank you for Eric and Lacey, and just to hear him talk about how he is just Forrest Gumping his way through life with Jenny and Father, and how you have put them together. And I just can't wait to see. I can't wait to see their judgment seat, and I can't wait to see how this church slowly begins to realize exactly the significance that we are having in this world. This little group of people in this little cow town in southeast Michigan, at this little church. Father, thank you for doing great and mighty things through weakness and insignificance. It's amazing that you choose to glorify yourself that way, and we give you the praise for it. We pray these things in Christ's name, amen.